Back in January on theugglyinside.net, at the end of the transfer window, I was very concerned that we'd lost Steven Corker to Liverpool, yet we'd failed to replace him, because I felt that left us very short in the central defence department. In effect, all that we had, in my opinion, who were of Premiership quality, were Virgil van Dijk and Jose Fonte. As a backup, we've got Yoshida, but he's not the most reliable of players in the Premier League. Indeed, it had been pointed out in one newspaper that he is in the top 10 players for errors that lead to goals in the Premier League, and given his number of games, that is quite alarming. So now with Jose Fonte sent off and facing a ban, we've got a crisis at Southampton Football Club in the centre of defence, with Florian Gardas, although now back from injury, not having played a game for the academy yet, and not being match fit, or indeed having played a game in the Premier League for over a year. And really, we haven't got a lot of options in the back four apart from playing Yoshida. Now, I'm not usually one to really slag down Saints players for the sake of it, and I'm sure that Maya Yoshida does his best at Southampton Football Club whenever he pulls on a shirt. But the fact of the matter is that when you're trying to achieve things in the Premier League, as Southampton Football Club are, i.e. still going for Europe or at least a top 10 place, he is not the player that you want to come in. But it could be the case we have to use him. So what are the options though? Are there any other options other than a straight swap for Yoshida for Jose Fonte? The answer is there are, although they're not all options that you perhaps might want to take. The first option is Cuco Martina. Cuco Martina has played in centre of defence in Holland, so could perceivedly slip in alongside Virgil van Dijk in the centre of defence. The second option is of course Florian Gardas, but as mentioned earlier, he hasn't played a game of any sort competitively in a year, and he hasn't played in any sort of friendly since last summer, some 7 or 8 months ago. So he's not going to be match ready to come into a side in a little bit of crisis. There is another option, but again, we're one game from being able to use that, and that's Victor Wanyama. Victor Wanyama's played at centre half for Celtic, and has been very, very effective there, and is big and strong. And he could prove the ideal foil for Virgil van Dijk in the time when Jose Fonte's missing. You hit the brawn of Wanyama alongside the guile of Virgil van Dijk. That looks quite a good fit. It's going to take Ronald Koeman to perhaps have to think outside the box, though, because there are some options which perhaps haven't been considered at all. Oriol Romeu might be an option. It was only a brief appearance in the back four, but in the time between Fonte being sent off and Yoshida being ready to come on, Romeu had to sort of drop a little bit deeper and cover. Personally, I don't think he's really a 90-minute man there, but he could be an option. Secondly, there's the option of sticking with a back three and using Martina, Van Dijk and Bertrand, and only really having one true central defence in there. And again, I think that's possibly the option that he could use at Stoke. Use Van Dijk as the centre pin, use Bertrand and Martina on each side, and then use the wing back pairing of Suarez and possibly Target, if Target is match fit for that game. So again, there's plenty of options. We've just got to make use of them. Ideally though, we would have signed another central defender in January and covered it, because we could, although Steven Corker perhaps didn't have the best of time at Southampton, he was a Premiership quality central defender, and this is the time when we could really have used him. So I think we might next week rue the day we let Steven Corker go.